Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wolverine Studios Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2021 Developer Dynasty here on Twitch every Tuesday night. Really excited to be with you guys. Tonight, we've got one of everybody's favorite topics on tap for tonight. That is recruiting. So very excited to talk recruiting with you guys, to talk about some of the things that I've been working on and get some of your feedback as well. As always, of course, I'd like to start our streams by thanking our followers. Our follower list continues to grow every single stream. So thank you for our brand new followers, including Wayne and T23. Wayne is one of the original Draft Day Sports college basketball guys, part of our DDSCB support squad. Long time supporter and contributor and tester for the game. So Wayne, thank you for following us, and welcome to the chat, and welcome to everybody else. And of course, a huge thank you to our subscribers who are supporting the channel, supporting the content that we're doing 3 nights a week right now. And if you have, just a reminder, if you have Amazon Prime, you can link that to your Twitch Prime account, and you can get a free subscription on Twitch every month for any channel you want. So if you can use that free sub on us, that supports us, that helps us out, and we really appreciate that. So I see already Chunky J-Mac and Frankie in the chat, so hi to you guys. Anybody else, feel free to type in the chat. We'll talk, I'll answer questions, and it's a great way to put in your suggestions about things that you're seeing, things that you want to see, all that sort of stuff. And we'll go over it. And Frankie says, "Congrats on the Bama win." Thank you. I'm always happy when Ohio State loses. Can't help it. Coolest Jedi, welcome to the chat. Good to see you. Hope to see you tomorrow night for our WSBA stream. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, we are running an online league here on Twitch on Wednesday nights for Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 2021 called the WSBA. So check that out. If you missed last week's stream, before we get into this week's stream, if you missed last week's stream, we talked about a huge new addition to the game. RPI is gone. We've replaced it with net. And on the insights page, now this particularly won't have any information here, but I'm going to pull up the screen anyways. There's a team sheet option. And this team sheet is going to show you your wins and losses over the course of the season in each of these 4 quadrants, which is what is being used now to determine what are good wins and bad losses in college basketball. So the RPI system is gone. It has been replaced by net. And you will also see the net ranking of teams. Again, this league is at a different stage in the season, so it won't show it. But when you go to the Bubble Watch on the media screen later in the year, it will show you the net ranking there, as well as RPI has been replaced. Season vet asks, any new preseason tournaments added this year? No, nothing has changed so far on the preseason tournaments. And hi to GT and M30. Welcome to the chat. So let's start talking about some of the recruiting changes so far that I've been working on. And as always, just feel free to throw your feedback in at any point in time here. The first thing is on this recruiting class page. This is something we did last year with the start, where you can go through for any team you want and see who is committed, who the team has offered out to, and players that are of known interest. So we have added. Last year we had these tags here that said cool or warm, and none, of course. We've added a hot tag this year, which will be in orange. The warm will be in yellow. So there is sort of a new tier here to help you even better identify players who have received a lot of interest from that school and are likewise, very interested in that school if they have a hot ranking. Warm will be, as you can imagine, they're sort of interested. Cool, not much interest. And none will obviously be no interest. GM Games Chris in the chat. Good to see Chris as always. And of course, check out our friends at GM Games and all the streaming they're doing on YouTube, all the Let's Plays. They do some great stuff. So let's go over to the recruit screen. One thing that you're going to notice is we've changed some of the information at the top up here right away. I've added in this option up here, which says call list. This will show you how many people, how many of your 50 weekly calls you have used up. So this is a good suggestion by somebody last year that they didn't know exactly how many calls they still had left to fill out and things like that. So as you add a player to your call list, then the next time I'll update it in real time eventually. But right now, the next time you load up the page, it will tell you that now I have 8 out of 50 used up on the call list. So again, I will get that updated in real time. This is the just obviously pre-beta that we're working on here. Although it's close to, we're going to be doing internal testing and starting first access fairly soon. So we're pretty close to the way there, but still some things to work out. So this new call list option or information piece, you have the key dates if you need to. You can click here always and get you can still see up in the right corner what date you're on, and you can see all of the different periods and what you can do during each of those periods. And if you need help, there's this help option here. It lists the hotkeys that you can use. It tells you about using the call list. It tells you, all sorts of things, including the minimum SAT score that your school needs. It really gives you a good overview of what you need to be doing on the screen. We got some questions in the chat. Bree says this looks good. Breeze, welcome to the chat. Good to see you again. Coolest Jedi says he loves the addition of the hot tag. On the screen, you can see now the warm tag that is here. We used to just have warm, cool, and none, and now we have the hot tag. Breeze asks, what does the different interest level mean when I see cool interest or the yellow? I don't know if it's good or bad. Like Chris said, it means it's sort of their interest. They have 2 levels of interest in your school. One is sort of their response to your recruiting efforts, which is what's showing the hot, warm, cool, and none. And a second is sort of their overall desire to go to your school. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. One other change you'll notice very quickly on the screen here is in the actions column. The actions, when you enable an action such as live scouting, hosting the recruit, or visiting the recruit, if you've taken that action, it will show up in this column. You'll see the icon that, on the first 2 players here, Mouton and Evans, you can see I've hosted those players, and that's why it's unavailable to me to host again. And now you'll see the information that corresponds with the buttons over here for watch list and call list. Those will be in here as well, so that you'll be able to see who is on your watch list or your call list without having to click on every player to see if those buttons are active or not. So I think that was a good suggestion to kind of have that data right there at a glance. Of course, in the drop down here, you do have the option to choose anybody who's on your call list, anybody who's only on your watch list, anybody on both lists, anyone you've contacted, anyone with interest, anyone that's visited your school. I've also added a new option here that you can see that says not on lists. So if you're looking for players who are not on your call or watch list already and you want to filter out all of the, you're looking for new people to add to the lists, you'll be able to use this not on lists option. There's also been a new option to the filter here for all recruits. You can obviously look at everybody. You can look at only the players who are not committed yet. You can look at the players who are committed if you want to see a list of those. And I've added this one that says only likely eligible. And this will change based on your team. But it will do its best to try to filter out the players that it doesn't feel will hit the SAT score necessary to get into your school. So obviously, if you're playing as one of the higher academic schools, when you choose this, it's going to knock more people off the list than if you choose, the schools that don't care so much about academics in the game. Again, this will not guarantee that the players who are on there will, will make it for sure. But it will at least filter out the ones that it's pretty sure won't make it. And it will do that based on GPA. So if I look here and just sort the list here, I can see there's a couple of sub 2.0 GPA guys. If I go to only likely eligible, then it's going to probably knock those guys off the list because they will not be eligible. And so yeah, you can see it's knocked the guys under 2.0 off of my list. Let me take a couple questions here. Blazer Taz asks, how is Pipeline State going to work? We talked about this last week. I've gotten a better explanation of the Pipeline State put into the game for you. So if you go to the stats page, the staff page, and you click on the coach card, there's a new button here that says Pipeline Progression. So if you click that, it tells you that coaches need to successfully recruit 10 players from a state in order to establish a recruiting pipeline in that state. This is a brand new save, so nobody's actually been recruited at all. But these boxes with the state IDs in them, they will change to yellow, I believe it was, if you've completed it, and blue if you're on your way towards those 10. So once you get that, your coach, and it works by coach, not by school. So your coach will have established a pipeline in that particular state. And then when you go to recruit, if you're recruiting in those states, you get a small bonus for those recruits in the states that you have a pipeline. Chris asks about selecting multiple guys at once to do to do actions too. That is not available, probably not going to be available. And Breeze asks, since there's hot interest, is it possible to have a cold interest? Yet the players who are listed as cool, they have some interest in your school, but not a lot. But again, you can work on that over time as well. So if you have a recruit who just has a little bit of interest, if you put in the effort over time with the different recruiting efforts and things like that, you can increase that interest. The same thing will hold true with the warm and hot interest. Those will decrease over time if you're not fostering them. So if somebody's really interested in your school, but you're not recruiting them, you're not making any efforts towards them, as time goes on, they will start to lose interest in your school and pick up that interest in somebody else. We've also added, you can see a new button at the top of the screen here that says Clear Lists. I know, some people like when they've finished their recruiting job for the year, and they don't want to continue to call players on the call list, or have players on their watch list. Instead of going one by one to remove them, you'll be able to click this Clear Lists button now, and it will just wipe out your call and watch lists for you. So that will make things a little bit easier there. One thing that you will not see that is behind the behind the curtain here in the code is that people have asked for the difficulty in recruiting to go up. So that has been changed here. If you go to game options, you'll notice there's a recruiting difficulty level. It defaults to normal, obviously. If you go to hard or brutal, we've ratcheted that up in this version, so that it will be even more difficult on hard, and hopefully even more difficult on brutal, to give some of our most experienced players a really good challenge. And Wayne, yes, you're watching last week's stream. Glad to have you here now, Wayne. Feel free to comment all you want here. We're live now in this week's stream. GTM30 says he likes the hot tag. It lets you know the progress, and that's exactly what it's there for. and Coolest Jedi likes the clearing out list options. And Chunky JMac, if you like a good challenge, I have put it on brutal. I've really turned it up there to make it even more difficult than it was before. Another thing you'll notice on this screen is that the layout of the recruiting grid has changed here. It used to be we had a giant list that you would scroll down here. That's been changed in favor of a pagination setup here, where you'll just click next, to go through, or previous to go back. The reason for this is speed in terms of loading this data table. It will go much faster with it set up like this, as opposed to having that full list and the scrolling here. So, there is so much data that it's loading that it does take, 3 or 4 seconds if you're going between the regions. And of course, a little bit longer to do the national or all of them. But it's also on the full recruit list. So, one thing I always tell people in order to kind of maximize this screen for them is at the beginning of the year, you might want to take the national region, or if you're a smaller school, just your own region, or even your own state. You can always just sort by states here, all the way down the list. And, the smaller you make this list, the faster it will load. So I encourage everybody to kind of the first day go through and make your list, make your 50-person watch list. And then, when you load up the screen, you can just leave it on watch list only, or your watch and call list, whatever you want to have. Or if you just want to have it on anyone contacted type thing, you can do that as well. So the more filters you use, the faster it will load the screen for you, and it will remember what your settings are. So, however you have these set up, when you leave the screen and come back, it will remember. It will remember what your settings were there. Coolest Jedi asks, one question I have is, could you lose top prospects to the G League as well as other colleges? That is a good question. I have not thought about kind of having guys who skip school. I'm gonna make a note of that. Usually when I stop talking for just a second, I'm making notes. That is a good point, Coolest Jedi. Now that is a reality in college basketball, it's probably something I will try to add, where you may see a top recruit or 2 or 5 just decide they're not going to go to school. They're just going to skip it and go to the G League. So that is something that that we can do there. Chris asks if there's a hotkey to go to next or previous. I got something for you, Chris, in a minute here that I think might help out with that. The player card itself is a work in order, a work in process rather. I have not changed it over to the new version. You're looking at the old version with a couple of improvements here. But let's talk about it. The one change you're going to notice is on the top 10 schools, if you know who those top 10 schools are, because either through your phone calls, you're recruiting, or because you purchased the premium magazine. I've got these tags on here now that's showing the cool, warm, and hot tags for their interest in each of those schools. That's something that's new, and it's something that I want to just take a minute and explain kind of what you're looking at with that. Breeze asks, the player card for attributes will have a similar look like PB21. Yeah, I can, before I derail myself too far here, I'll show you that, Breeze. The player cards themselves do look like PB21. They've got their own things because they have offensive and defensive proficiencies in the game here, but they do have that look. The recruiting cards will have the same look eventually. And we will, and yes, you will see, obviously in college, the players have a much wider array of ratings than they do in the pro game, because there's so few college players that would be pro eligible. So you will see players with lower ratings than you would in the pro game. So anyways, back to this screen again. This player card will eventually look like the one I just showed you. But the top 10 schools, so when you look at this list and you see it says Florida is number 1 on this list, but it's cool, and Louisville is hot for interest, and they're down at 6th. What this list is showing you is both, kind of both factors that I talked about before. This will show you kind of their desire to go to schools in this list, but it will also show you kind of where the effort and interest is coming from. So even though Louisville is hot and is only 6th on the list, they're a viable option. But at this point in time, this recruit is really holding out hope that his top choices are going to come through, even though they haven't yet. As you can see, that they haven't put much interest into this player at this point in time. So again, each player has their own their own desires to go to a certain school, just like they do in real life. They want to go to play for a certain coach. They want to play in a certain state. They have their favorites that they're really interested in. But what this option is going to do is it's going to kind of let you know where you stand. If I'm recruiting and I was running, Louisville, I would know that, I've been making a lot of effort on this guy, and he's telling me he's got interest, and it's doing some good, but there's still 5 ahead of me, and the 5 ahead of me aren't schools that have really put a lot of effort into him yet. So I have to be wondering, okay, look, he's telling me he's got interest through my recruiting efforts, but he's really still holding out for all these other schools. So am I going to keep the effort going here? Will he eventually drop these schools because he hasn't been interested? Maybe. So maybe this is a sign that I should stick with him if I was playing, as Louisville in this game. By the same token, if I move to, something here where, I know that the school in front of me, he's also hot, interest in, then I know that I'm probably going to end up losing out, on that school, because he's already ahead of me. They're already chasing after him hard. They're putting in a lot of recruiting resources, and he's got him ranked ahead of me. So I might want to drop some of my effort in this one, because there's already one in front of me that he likes better that also has the same level of interest. So again, this is when you see these top 10 schools, and again, if you're a small school and you don't have the premium reports and stuff like that, you don't necessarily see all this information at first. But the larger schools who do purchase those premium reports do get to see this information. This will give you a good idea of where you stand, not just in the order of his top 10, but kind of what your chances are. So this is a big improvement. This is a big change here, because before, these tags weren't there. So you were really kind of shooting in the dark, not knowing, exactly how interested, the schools in front of you on the list, he was. So I think this is a big change. I think this is going to, help you in your recruiting efforts in where you should go ahead and where you should pull back on players as well. And yeah, even, as Chris asked, could Louisville still win this player? Absolutely. Because, he's really going to need, first of all, obviously he has to have an offer from somebody, in front. If he doesn't get those offers, it won't wait until the end. The players change their interest levels as the season goes on. So as time progresses, if he's holding out for Florida and holding out for Kentucky, and they're not giving him the offer, they're not recruiting on him, eventually he will start to pull back on that interest, and his top 10 will change, and you'll be in a better position there. But if you're 6th on the list and hot, and 1 through 5 are hot as well, then you probably know that it's not worth chasing after, because you need all, at least most of those ones to, for some reason fall out, or for you to be able to out recruit them, or if you have the illegal recruiting turned on, if you want to offer them, an illegal bribe to help you, you can do that as well. Of course, if you do have that turned on, there is the chance that you will eventually be caught and punished and fired and all that kind of good stuff. So that is an option you can turn on or off. And speaking of that option, that's something else it reminds me I just added. I added these items on the association options page for the settings. These are things that you set when you create the league to prevent underclassmen from declaring, to allow conference movement, and to allow illegal recruiting. In the past, once you set these at the beginning, that was it. You couldn't change them. I've added them to this screen, so if you've moved along and you like something, you don't like something, you can turn it back on or off. So that'll be an option for you. There's a lot of chat here, so let me grab a couple of these real quick. Chris asks if the updating happens once or twice. The updating happens as often as it did before right now. So player updating in terms of their interest has not changed. Blazer Taz asks, is there a way to find out who is above you in his top 10 without buying the gold mags? As you recruit, you might get bits of information about where you stand in the top 10, or where you might find out Michigan State's ahead of you or something like that as part of the recruit information that you pull. So you can get that information without the premium magazines. Let's see what else we got. Breeze asks, is it possible to have injuries during the off season? That I haven't added in here, just because there's not in the pro game we added preseason injuries, to simulate them playing preseason games. And here they don't really play preseason games. There is the possibility to have an injury during the summer practices and stuff, though, although it's rare. And let's see. There's a question. The cool warm is how the player feel, or is it the college? It's their interest in the college who's recruiting them. So again, it's not necessarily, like I said, just because they have hot interest, it just means they've been really receptive to the recruiting efforts from that school. It doesn't mean that's their favorite school. It just means that the recruiting efforts that school has put in is going to they've appreciated that, as opposed to if you've been recruiting a player and he still says cool or none, he's not interested, and he's basically telling you to go on, move on. But players who are warm and then hot, they've been receptive to your recruiting efforts. Let's see. Chris asks, is there a search then to sort by them having you in their top 10? There's nothing. There's nothing for a top. I mean, I could add a filter here, maybe on the recruit list. Let me make a note of that. If you know the information, maybe I can add a filter here, just players that are you're in their top 10, something like that, as an option there, Chris. One big thing is that I have finally got it working with the recruit cards staying in the order that you have them. So here, the order is Palmer, Valdez, Mouton, and Evans. If I click on Palmer and I move to the next one, it'll be Valdez, Mouton, and Evans. So once you sort your list here, if I want to sort by GPA or something, then I know Vernon Tyler's the top one, and then Todd Dean, and then Doug Smith. So if you've sorted on the recruiting screen now, when you go to to look up these players and you scroll through them, you'll be scrolling through them in the order you had them listed on the recruiting screen. So that that should make things a lot easier. I'm also working to add the actions back to the recruiting card. So the ability to do all these things here, all the recruiting actions here. If you want to do them from the recruiting card, I'm going to work to put them back on the recruiting card as well. So I know that was something people really asked for before, is, for things in the recruiting to scroll in the order that you had them sorted. That will be back here in this version. I finally got that working. So you'll have a ton of filter things up here. If you want to see ratings that you've scouted, you can change it with the show ratings and show bio. Again, then you can go through the player cards the way that you have things sorted on the main recruit screen. So that's our 30 minutes for tonight. That went by so fast. That was a really good chat. I really appreciated the chat here. We got, obviously, recruiting is such a huge part of the game. I've often said that the game is really two games in one. Recruiting is kind of like its own game within the game. And then, of course, all the business of actually running your team and playing games, that's all important too. But recruiting really takes on a life of its own in the game. There's still more additions coming to recruiting as well. And of course, we've talked about the list of 240 suggestions or whatever that Point Guard compiled for me that I'm diligently working through. So you will find a lot of new things here in the game. And, there's not going to be a ton of wow, I've never seen it. The net thing is new, and it's a brand new visual and a brand new way of doing things. Everything else really is going to be, like all the things we talked about for this half hour on recruiting, and that's only like half of the recruiting changes that are coming. Just things that improve the game, make it better, make it easier to use, give you more information, let you use that information differently. All of that kind of stuff, anything to enhance the game, because this game is, in my opinion, the best and deepest game that we have. It's the best college basketball game that's available for anything right now. And it's so deep. It's had so many great refinements, so many suggestions over the years from all you guys, who've been on the boards, who come to the chat, stuff like that. I mean, like I said, we had a list of 242 suggestions or something, and they're not all just like tiny one-line suggestions. It's, things that have been well thought out over time. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who has come to the chat. I appreciate Atomic Man 18, who says that I'm the GOAT. I really appreciate that, Atomic Man. Thank you for that. And I can't wait to get this to you. First access. Somebody asked. Blazer Taz asked about first access. Probably a couple of weeks away. And we always try to have the official launch at that late February, early March stage. So you can kind of work back from there and figure out when first access is likely to begin. But very soon. So that'll do it for tonight. I can't wait to get back to work. Keep making some improvements. Got some good suggestions even from this stream. And again, that's one of the reasons we do these streams, is to get the feedback, get suggestions, get ideas, let you take a look at things as they're coming along, so that so that we can have that feedback immediately, rather than waiting until the game is launched and then people saying, "Oh, I would have liked it if this happened." This is a great way to do it. So thank you so much for coming to the stream. Thank you to our followers, and especially to our subscribers. And we will see you next Tuesday for another episode of the Developer Dynasty on Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2021. Don't forget to join us tomorrow night here on our Twitch channel for the WSBA League stream. And at the end of this week, for all you college football fans, we're going to be having the first access launch of Draft Day Sports College Football 2021. So get ready to get your hands on that as well. It's going to be a very busy couple of weeks around the studio here as we gear up for our college launches. So thanks to everybody, and have a great night.